One channel I often try to check in on is Doctor81, who has some very interesting and informed content. And he recently spotted a job advertisement for a principal in partner management for second party games at Nintendo of America. Now, the notion of first party and third party games are fairly well established, but I have seen some argument over the years concerning whether second party is a thing at all, and so it's worth reflecting on whether Nintendo's understanding of the term is aligned with other interpretations. Second party in this case has two potential meanings. First, it can mean where third party studios are contracted to make first party games, and in Nintendo's case, this usually means a high degree of control from the EPD group back in Kyoto. There are many such long-standing partnerships, such as Intelligent Systems with Fire Emblem, Paper Mario, and WarioWare, and Bandai Namco, who developed for Smash, Mario Sports Superstars, and others. Another less common potential interpretation that I have seen used is wholly owned subsidiaries of companies that are nevertheless outside the main development base. This would include, as alleged, second party studios, Retro Studios, Nintendo Software Technology, Monolith Soft, and so on. There is some evidence that this is how Nintendo's structure perceives these teams, since the very structure of EPD, Nintendo's Entertainment Planning Division, used to include external focus groups that nevertheless also incorporated subsidiaries like Nintendo Cube and Monolith Soft, which were, if not wholly owned by Nintendo, at least in the high 90% owned by Nintendo. Clearly, in this sense, external to Nintendo means external to the Kyoto base, except perhaps the Tokyo studio where the 3D Mario games are developed, which still seems to count as a core part of the team. Still, this is specifically a business development role rather than a software development role, and the phrasing of this particular job advertisements suggests that they are less concerned about the second interpretation than the first, dealing with outside game studios who could be developing games for Nintendo EPD. The job advertisement calls for someone who establishes and facilitates strategic partnerships with external software development studios and acts as the central point of contact on behalf of Nintendo with oversight from Nintendo of America and Nintendo Company Limited management. This is based in Redmond, which is Nintendo of America's main base now, and also where Nintendo Software Technology work from. All of this suggests that they are at least looking to cultivate new development partnerships, particularly in the American or at least the non-Japanese market. This may mean, and perhaps is likely to mean, new partnerships being forged. That is certainly what these 2 points suggest, points which are requested for the job requirement. Promotes and communicates Nintendo and the platform, our suite of services, features, tools, terms, and policies to potential second party software development partners. Proactively and independently identifies, investigates, establishes, and maintains strong relationships with a diverse network of external software development studios through outreach via existing connections, studio visits, online meetings, and attending industry events. There are so many potential partners who could become second party developers for Nintendo, far too many to realistically have a chance of identifying. But the situation for Nintendo's existing relationships with game studios outside Japan is in an interesting state. A few of their studio relationships have changed significantly in recent years, with the Vancouver-based Next Level Games becoming a fully owned Nintendo subsidiary, while other relationships seem to have withered. Monster Games was a major partner for Nintendo in the Wii and 3DS era, responsible for the Excite series, Pilot Wings Resort, and the 3DS ports of Donkey Kong Returns and Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. They were even credited with co-developing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze with Retro. Since 2016, though, they seem to have been focused on their successful racing titles on PlayStation, Xbox, and Windows, and a return to Nintendo systems seems improbable. A more recent development partner with an uncertain future with Nintendo is WayForward. I am really subtle about it, so most regular viewers of this channel will not be aware, but I actually really like Advance Wars, and although Advance Wars 1 plus 2 Reboot Camp may not have been a perfect rendition of those games, I was so ecstatic to play these two classics on modern hardware with widescreen and some lovely graphics. However, The title's hugely delayed release, coupled with the fact that the director and the top team have moved on to different titles since, renders it an open question as to whether the California-based developers will come back to Switch. Coupled with that, there was some disgruntlement at WayForward from people who were working in testing that might suggest that the experience wasn't entirely happy, but as with anything where axes appear to come pre-ground, caution should surely be applied. Given their quite large output of games and the existing relationship Nintendo has with them, it would be surprising if WayForward didn't eventually cycle back to working with Nintendo, and of course my dearest hope is that we do get a full-fledged Advance Wars sequel, just as Mages and Grezzo have graduated from remakes to mainline titles. Another studio that could be part of Nintendo's American second-party axis is Iron Galaxy. This Austin-based branch of the studio assisted Retro on the gorgeous Metroid Prime Remastered, and they have a long history of port and support work, including, of course, on the Nintendo Switch. The chances of the full Metroid Prime trilogy getting the remastered treatment may seem like a forlorn hope, but if Iron Galaxy were to take on ever more involvement, it would be a glorious thing. Plus, anything that adds power to Retro's development arm may help us secure more content from those Austin aces. Then there's Velan. Headquartered in New York, this team shot to Nintendo fame with the innovative and fun-looking Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, and while that game doesn't appear to have been one of Nintendo's most successful innovative projects, it seems plausible that Nintendo's love of strange and unique approaches with withered technology may coincide nicely with Velan's apparent interest in the same kind of approach. Apart from another home circuit-style game based around Hot Wheels, they also reportedly have a new virtual reality pinball game, and so clearly they do like their innovative control styles. Then there is Ubisoft's Toronto branch, who developed Starlink Battle for Atlas, the 2018 game which featured Star Fox and friends. Nintendo's summer romance with Ubisoft during this period, with Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle having released the previous year, seems likely to have hit a rough patch after Ubisoft declared themselves disappointed with Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope's initial performance, after David Saliani bailed on the company, and after Ubisoft itself seems to be in quite a bit of economic difficulty. Actually, I think instead of looking at larger studios, Nintendo may well look to smaller ones. The Redmond-based Nintendo Software Technology, where this new position will also be based, has been responsible for a number of games partnering with smaller devs and leveraging the considerable skills of the Nintendo Software Technology team. 2017's Snipperclips, 2019's The Stretchers, and 2020's Good Job partnered with indie game studios, and I could definitely see this kind of thing continuing as Nintendo look to find innovative concepts that would help flesh out their game lineup. This makes sense of the advert's description of the need to receive game pitches as well. The fact that many of these teams were based not in America but in Europe makes it also possible that Nintendo's US operations could coordinate work beyond the Americas and into Europe, and this would bring into play teams like the Spanish Metroid Dread developers Mercury Steam and the Polish Forever Entertainment, who are responsible for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. I guess the key question is whether Nintendo can find new studios to headline their bigger properties on a long-term basis. Famicom Detective Club, 2D Zelda, and 2D Metroid have all benefited hugely from regular development partners over the last decade, and Nintendo have in the past farmed out some franchises to international second-party developers with some success, notably with Next Level Games on the Luigi's Mansion series. Not just Advance Wars, but there are plenty of major franchises, Wario Land, F-Zero, Star Fox, and more, that could benefit from outside input, possibly in the United States or Europe. Ultimately, I think the key determinant of whether these go ahead will be the development capacity at EPD, and while this is growing with the team enlarging and even moving into a new building in the next few years, it is not necessarily the case that they will have the specific ideas required to feel confident moving these beloved franchises forward. Still, it's an optimistic moment for Nintendo's development capacity, and let's hope that many more partnerships are struck to develop awesome Nintendo content well into the future. Thank you as ever for watching, sharing, liking, and subscribing. Do check out the Patreon for more, and I shall see you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.